Welcome, Nicolya.
Thank
Very,
you.
very happy to have and welcome everyone. This is very exciting today for me to have Nicolya here. Nicolya has recently released her book, Love, God, and Everything, and I highly recommend you get the book. It's a densely packed book that offers many different perspectives to what we are going through currently together as a collective and the transformative times ahead. So I'd like to, and the book is available on Amazon, and the worldwide release just happened on the 20th, just a few days ago. So congratulations on that, Nicolya.
Well, thank you, Supriya. And just to say that because of the whole COVID scenario, it's been put back, the worldwide release date again. So it's now going to be February the 3rd.
Okay. Oh, so is it not available right now? It is though, right?
It's available on Kindle outside of the US and Canada. It's available in the US and Canada everywhere, but outside of the US and Canada, it's been put back to February the 3rd.
Okay. So everyone who is outside of US and Canada can get it post February 3rd then?
Yes, or on Kindle on Amazon.
Okay, on Kindle on Amazon. That's how I got it. So thank you. Thank you for that. To begin with, I'd like to introduce Nicolya from her bio, which is on her website. You can find all her details at nicolyachristi.love. And I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. Nicolya Christi is a visionary, futurist, and author. Her first book, 2012, A Clarion Call, Your Soul's Purpose in Conscious Evolution, was placed in the top 10 book reviews by Publishers Weekly in spring 2011. Professor Erwin Laszlo, twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, endorsed it as the most remarkable spiritual book on this or any other subject that I have ever read. Satish Kumar described her as a great visionary and thinker whose work is articulating and promoting conscious evolution and is outstanding. Barbara Marx Hubbard referred to her as our guide through this evolutionary global shift and is one of the best I have encountered. Nicolya's work is founded on spirituality, metaphysics, philosophy, and psychology. She has developed various psycho-spiritual maps and models for evolving consciousness and brings unique new theories to the psychological and spiritual domains, all of which are inspired by extensive personal experience in these fields. Between June 1997 and November 2002, she underwent multiple out-of-body experiences, which included mystical encounters, a life-changing experience of conscious dying in March 2002, and a consciousness transforming experience of enlightenment in October 2009. Her work is founded upon three fundamental principles: psychological integration, conscious evolution, and spiritual awakening. Its trajectory spans the conscious evolution of the individual and the world itself, from conscious awareness to conscious integration, to self and collective realization, to self and collective actualization, and ultimately self and collective transcendence. So there's a lot here. And Nicolya, before we begin, I want to share with you the coincidences and the synchronicities that had me connect with you and request for this conversation. December solstice, which was December 21st of 2021, a couple days before that, I was meditating and I had this inspired feeling that I had to offer a winter solstice session here at our school. And if you know about Mystery School, which is founded by Jeff, who's here also as well on the call, is where we all come together to exactly explore all these topics that you are sharing about, and to do this together as a collective, because we support each other, and our progress and our ascension is much better when we do this together. So this space, our school, is a platform where we're inviting everybody to come in and offer pieces of wisdom or whatever that we may, we're inspired to offer, so we can learn from each other. So I was inspired, although I didn't know any details of what I was going to do. I just knew I had to do something for winter solstice. And then on December 20th night, that's the night for the solstice, I, out of the blue, start getting your posts on Facebook. Now, if we know how Facebook works, it's that unless you're liking somebody's posts, they don't necessarily show up on your newsfeed. And, Nicolya, you and I have been on Facebook as friends for a long time, but you were nowhere in my awareness or in the Facebook scene anywhere. And then out of the blue, your posts about your books, you launching the book come up. And then I click on it, and then there's this pull that I need to read your book, even though I have other things lined up for the evening and that night. Your book comes up, and once I got the book and I started reading, it was just this energetic feeling of I knew I had to read your book that night, and it had come to me at the right time. And there were so many links and synchronicities, and honestly, like the feeling like, oh my God, I know this person, I know what she's talking about, this is how I felt. And from that was the inspiration to connect with you and ask you for this conversation. And that's how we are here today. So thank you. Thank you for accepting and reflecting back.
Well, it's so good to hear that. Thank you so much, Supriya. It's just synchronicities are just wonderful, wonderful things. And we come onto each other's paths at exactly the right time. So it's really good. It makes me smile, makes my heart smile to hear what you just shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolya. And of course, another coincidence there was also while I was connecting with you here on the side, completely this line where I heard Jeff was doing the same on the other end. So, that truly, I think life right now is showing us how we're all in the same space together, even if our minds might not know that, and see that all the time. So to begin with, in that train, Nicolya, this is what has come up for me. You talk about your time in 1997 onwards, where you started your OBEs, and you especially talk about the time frame from 2002 to 2009, when you had them. And, it was the same for me. And one of my deepest questions that I've always stayed with, which I think is so relevant for what we do in school as well, is that when you are futurist and when you go through these experiences and you had those OBs and you surrendered again and again, how much clarity did you really have? And on what legs did you actually stand to know that this is what you had to commit to? Did you have a clear idea already that this was your mission? And how was that whole experience?
Mm-hmm. So I can just clarify, when you say a clear idea, this was my mission, what are you talking about exactly? The OBEs or what's unfolded since?
So one is, of course, having the OBEs, that they meant something more, right? Yeah. That they were real, that they were true, because I'm speaking from when that happened to me. Years went by when I actually believed the narrative that it was hallucination. because that's what I had around me. And we always look outside. So it took me a while, although deeply I knew it was not an hallucination. It was something more. So one is that aspect. And the second one where you surrendered again and again, and you knew that this was your mission, and then you made yourself completely available
Yeah, yeah.
for the path.
Mm-hmm. Well, just the background to the OBEs is deep prayer, deep prayer from the soul to be of service on this planet, seeing and viewing my form as a vessel for spirit to come into and work with me and through me. And so that was my abiding prayer for many years. And in those many years, I spent all that time purifying. So I really purified my diet, my thoughts, everything I could. The whole thing for me was purity. And I believe that in 1997, June 1997, when the first one happened, and I'd been praying quite fervently up to that point, that I'd reached a point of purification, that something else needed to happen that couldn't be done with diet and thoughts. It was energetic, something else had to happen. And so that's when the energy started to come in. And it was so, so powerful. I mean, it was not comfortable. It was extremely uncomfortable. And I had no control over it when it was in. I just literally had to give into it, probably like your own experience. I would love to hear your experience, Supriya. So anyway, while that energy was coursing through my body, and as I say in the book, it was like I was living in London at the time, and it was like being plugged into the generator for the whole of London. My whole body was just vibrating to the point where it felt like I was going to break apart. It's like a million pieces. But I felt it was almost a psychic, metaphysical, esoteric clearing. So many different layers, because we know we're not just physical, of course, there's all the other layers. And it was just after that I started my psychological journey. It guided me really to the psychological, because I realized that it's one thing to be spiritual, which I was always, really, from waking up when I was 16. But even when I was a child, I was having psychic experiences. I was aware of astrology and so forth. But when I reached 16, that's when what I called at the time my ascension process began, when a very healthy childhood turned into a very symptomatic teenage years, physically very symptomatic. But anyway, so point being is that when this energy started to come in for those 5 years of those OBEs, that started 1995, I started the following year. In fact, it could even have been that same year. I went to a fundamentals at the end of that year, started a year training with the Institute of Psychosynthesis in London, because I just knew, it was just this knowing, gnosis, this knowing that it's one thing to be spiritual and connected with the higher dimensions strongly, as many of us are. But it's something else to be on the planet, connected at the highest levels, but really grounded, with your feet on the ground, your feet on the earth, your consciousness grounded, and your own stuff, in quotes, as resolved as is possible to begin to fulfill one's purpose, which at that point I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I had opened myself up to something. And then it was a case of step by step, follow the way, follow my heart, follow what feels right, see where it takes me. And of course, we know from the book that it took me to March 2002, and that major collapse, the death that took place, 2 weeks after that. And then the 7 years of trying to come back to life again, and 7 years literally to the week of collapsing in March 2009. That's when the title of Clarion Call came in. And I had said during that 7-year period, the energy had tried to come in twice, and I had 2 really bad psychic attacks. I'd never had them before. I didn't believe they existed, because in a way, if anyone knows anything about astrology, my midheaven is ruled by Virgo. Midheaven is all about our vocation. So I have the very Virgoian qualities, which I'm so pleased about, because I'm very Piscean. So thank God I've got those qualities, which really makes me want to ground everything, to experience it for myself, to know it. And so that's what happened. I started to have these experiences that could be knowing that could then go into book form, which I had no idea at all until 2009, March 2009, not an inkling that I would end up as a writer. And no idea.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love that word, by the way, Nicolya, that you talk about the intuitive knowing.
Yes,
It's
gnosis.
something that we all have at our deepest part of ourselves. We know what that truth is, even though we cannot name it and word it. It's there. So it's a beautiful, beautiful word that I'm going to adopt. So thank you for that.
I like it because, you know, we have the difference between knowing K-N-O-W, that's the mind, it's the intellect, and knowing G-N-O-hyphen-I-N-G, knowing gnosis, G-N-O-S-I-S, gnosis, to know, not know how we know, we just know. And that's something that's been so strong for me. All of my life was this sense of I know what I know and I can't make sense of it and nobody believes me, but I know what I know. And eventually that starts to make sense. But the point I meant to say about the experiences was that I had said, you know, I'd had those 2 attacks during the 7 years, and I had said very clearly to Spirit, my guides, if you want to work with and through me, as I have implored, you have to find a different way. You cannot bring this energy into my body because I won't survive, because I believe that's what caused the collapse. But actually it was so multi-layered. It was all meant to happen anyway. Point being, I said, you know, no more. You don't come in this way. Find another way to work with me. And that's when 7 years later, the writing just came out of nowhere.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what you shared about this, Nicolya, is so key, which has been my latest understanding, which is that we play that part, you know, so it's not just one way. One is, of course, to open up. And the second thing also is that I understood exactly in the book that you've written is that you also had a say to say that we need to find another way. And it just wasn't this.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's a two-way relationship, especially when it's healthy and it's balanced and we're not giving our power away. We're not being overpowered by something. We're in healthy, right relationship, as psychotherapy would, that beautiful term in psychotherapy, transpersonal humanistic psychotherapy, right relationship. And when we're in right relationship with ourselves, we're in right relationship with everything, you know, be it a flower, human, an animal, spirit. We're in that right relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your right relationship really speaks through your words in the book. And especially this that you pointed at, Nicolya, which is, you know, we can either be sometimes too spiritual in our head and airy-fairy, like it's like ungrounded, and or so much in the reality that we see around us that we don't see possibilities. And in your book that you share is so beautiful, where you say it's this whole balance where the human is in the middle and you have these possibilities that are coming through, but at the same time it's grounded, and that is so important for us so that we can manifest what is coming through.
Absolutely. And this is why the psychological level is so instrumental in the evolution, the conscious evolution of any individual, is the psychological gateway. It is so instrumental because spirituality can become like everything else. It can become an addiction. It can become an escape route. You know, people can split off, repress, deny as much with spirituality as they can with alcohol or, you know, retail therapy or whatever these terminologies are. It's, you know, it's again, everything comes down to our relationship with ourselves, and we can only be in right relationship with ourselves when we've done the work, when we've gone inside, we've looked at our history, we've looked at our upbringings, we've looked at the influences that were around us and influenced us as we were waking up, as it were, in terms of growing up. And until we've resolved that, and then of course we have all the other patterns of the ancestral patterns as well. So, you know, there's definitely, I think I said it in Contemporary Spirituality, my books, Contemporary Spirituality, that in quotes, there's a light worker in every family. You know, every family needs a light worker, and there's a light worker in every family. And I believe that, you know, so the light worker is often the black sheep. It's the one that stands separate to the rest, but is the one that's at some level, at soul level, has said, I'll take this on. I'll do mine and I'll do ours for the generations that have gone, the generations to come. So people that are walking quite a tough path, but are very spiritually awake, very deeply involved and interested and curious about their psychological selves. These beings are especially awakened, especially important, because we know that for world peace, and I've said this for years and it's nothing that nobody else has said, for world peace to become a reality, it can only happen when the world is at peace in itself individually. And we don't need 8 billion people for that to happen, but what we do need is enough people to be awakened and psychologically integrated. And that's why these two levels go hand in hand. Otherwise, we're just balloons, spiritually, we're just floating off up there. And we're not really any major, great influence in the way that we could be as a collective if we could be more integrated in a more holistic holistic and holistic H way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the relationship to this school as well. I really think that's exactly what we do here. And leading to that, Nicolya, I really want to share about this chapter of yours, which you shared on epigenetics, which just absolutely moved. And I want to just share quickly what you wrote there that Bruce Lipton shared with you on the study of epigenetics, which says environmental signals read by our nervous system are influenced by our perception and interpretations of our mind. The brain then releases chemicals that match these interpretations and enters the blood and travels through our nervous system. And this controls behavior and gene activity. The field of epigenetics reveals the impact of ancestral, historical, psychological, psychospiritual influences on human cells and DNA.
Yeah.
So this chapter itself I had twice. And that's because I directly connected with it, with this aspect that you're talking about, the psychological, who we are in these as this body mind. If we take the me away, but you really see the conditions that have been imprinted. And one thing that you beautifully shared in the book was it's both. It's the traumas, the suffering that our ancestral line has carried, and it's also the gifts that have come from our ancestry.
Yes,
And
let's
to
not
be able to hold both, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget the gifts, because it's so easy to be forgetting. So much is on the ancestors, my parents, my grandparents, and the lines that go back, and they had this issue and that issue. But they also leave us with, as I often talk about legacies, they leave us the legacies of gifts as well. And also the gifts in their trauma, their suffering, are gifts to us now for our own trauma and suffering. And then in kind, it's almost like paying it forward, paying it back, as we heal ourselves, we heal for them as well. So what we do in the here and now and in this lifetime determines, the key people that have been in our lives, that have passed over, that are still very close to us, determines to some degree what they're coming in with. Because as we heal for ourselves, we heal for them. So I feel it really changes the destiny. We're not just changing our own destiny as souls, because whatever we don't complete, if you like, in any given lifetime, is carried forward. So we're not just completing, if you like, for ourselves, we're also helping to and changing our destinies in that, changing our futures. We're also doing that for those that are still to come again, those that have been and will come again, that are closely linked to us. So I always have this sense psychically of our loved ones, our parents, the ones that have gone over, our grandparents, great grandparents and so forth. Just the lineage, the whole lineage, really just checking in on us every now and then. And seeing somebody working really deeply on themselves, or having body work and releasing something or other. And that sense that they're saying, yeah, that's a knot, like a karmic knot. That's a knot that's been stuck in the lineage for so long, and it's gone. It's so important, the healing. It's not just for us. It's 3-dimensional in the respect that it's about us, it's about our ancestors, and it's about the collective.
Yeah. And yeah, personally, for me, Nicolya, I mean, this is a lived experience because I had my daughter in 2002, my older one, and that's when my OBs started. And I have seen that connection between her and me.
Right.
And that dance, this dance that you speak of, is a lived experience for me. And it's actually one of the reasons that in this body mind I'm really stepping out, because I see that there is this energy that comes in from the ancestral line, which asks us to step into certain things. There's a role that we are here to play. There's a part that we have to play, and we've been given this, like you said, both, clear whatever there might be suffering that through our body that we need to clear, and also offer that gift out into the world. And I have seen that when I believe the mind and I hesitate to do that, Nicolya, I see the reflection of that in my daughter. And when I read your book, it was just so clear for me that how every action, every choice, how much we hold ourselves in awareness, how we walk this affects everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Even down to how we hold ourselves physically, our postures, everything is kind of an overlaying and an overlaying and an overlaying of ancestral influence. So even just changing one's posture to something, noble, beautiful, and when I say noble, I mean spiritually, regal, if you like, and moving in a different way, a more graceful, poetic, gentle way. This is like a new mudra, so it ripples through the dimensions and impacts the consciousness, not just of ourselves, but that those we are especially connected with. And of course, if we're walking down a street and we're holding ourselves in a different way, we're transmitting and emanating in a different way and very consciously, it's going to impact the people that pass us by.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. And exactly in that context that I want to share generally, you've shared so beautifully in the book, like I say, different perspectives, right? Evolutionary astrology, something that's really new, and it's on the edge work, and all these different perspectives, Nicolya. And I feel for ones who are reading the book, because after reading, shared, what happens is many times we can sense the transformations that are coming ahead, and then we can sense that we need to go fix it. We might have that, like go to the future. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? If we are trained to be in our mind. And the beautiful part of what you shared right now is what came through in the book as well. That while there are so many things, right? You also talk about the three planes, the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious.
Yeah.
And I love that the way, because I'm a visual person, the way that you set it up as the airport, and you have these planes coming in and leaving. And but what in that came through so clearly, even though when you share so much, is that what matters is where we are in the moment now, and that our power lies right where we are. It's as simple as that, right? Like you just share right now, where you say it's this moment we can choose for our posture, for our thoughts, to open our hearts and to be love, and that doesn't require anything else.
And in a way, it's so simple. When we think about, apologies for any things, I'm not looking at anything, the screen is actually black. But in a way, it's so simple. We've had these like amazing scriptures and texts and doctrines and so forth throughout spiritual history. These layers and layers of how we can reach, in quotes, enlightenment and so forth. And there's many complex theories that accompany those. But actually, the reality is when we boil it all down to its simplest, purest source, it is literally just being love. It's just choosing to respond, not react, because I talk about difference between respond and react, to respond as love. In any given moment, we can choose how we respond to something as love, or we can react. So we can respond or we can react. If we react, reaction comes from wounded ego, comes from wounded child. It comes from the unintegrated personality level. That's reaction. Often, I found it very interesting. A few years ago, Facebook decided they were going to add something that we can do, these face things that we can do. I'm not very good at the icon things, whatever. But anyway, it said, react, something like react to someone's post. And I was like, no, why don't they say respond? The collective message of react on Facebook, it's like, no, respond. It's a totally different energy. We feel into the word react, we feel into the word respond. They're different energies because they're coming from different places within us. So we can choose in any given moment, no matter what's going on around us, what we're seeing, what we're witnessing, what we're experiencing. Okay, I have a choice right now. I can either react to this, or I can just breathe, go into my heart and respond. And, this leads me to a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's one of my favorite quotes by him. The beautiful, beautiful soul that's just transitioned. Probably the only living teacher, in quotes, in my lifetime that I've actually really been influenced by, because he was so pure. And I'm not saying the others aren't, don't get me wrong. It was just the resonance for me was very strong with Thich Nhat Hanh. And, he said, and it's absolutely summed it up. So I actually put this up as a sort of a memorial statement, really. He said, it is possible to live 24 hours a day in a state of love. Every movement, every glance, every thought, and every word can be infused with love. And if we use that as a mantra every day, as a response mantra, then again, enough people doing that and living from that place, and we do start to see the world transforming. And just one more thing about his passing, that I had this thought a couple of days ago actually, when it happened, and I felt of all the times for him to go, he was 95, he'd had a stroke, I think it was like 6-7 years ago, quite an intense one, but he chose to go right now. And for me, he's gone. Again, his passing, of course, is in service, because this is when the world most needs his message. And now the planet, social media, the news, the spiritual news, conscious evolution news and so forth, not even mainstream news, although having said that, he has been recognized by one of the governmental departments in the States. They put out a very rare statement about him, which was incredible. But the point is that the world most needs his message now. So suddenly the world is flooded with his messages. And I thought, what an amazing time to go, when we need to be reminded of everything that he was teaching on his path. But yeah, so coming full circle, it's about love, it's about being in the moment. And as he says, it is possible to live 24 hours a day in a state of love. Every moment, every glance, every thought, and every word can be infused with love. It's a beautiful, pure mantra. If we know nothing else, KNOW, if we know nothing else about how do I take the next step forward, how do I begin to heal, how do I begin to evolve, how do I awaken more, live by that mantra, and you're halfway there already.
Yeah, beautiful. And such I feel such gratefulness for you and for him and everybody, because when we utter these words, Nicolya, it ignites all of us who hear it, right? Energetically, we're all feeling it.
Yeah.
We all come alive, because our core is that. So we all resonate to that immediately. And the more we listen, the more we come together in these conversations and talk, the more we kind of steep into it, and the more real it becomes for each of us. So that's the beautiful, beautiful part of it. And for me, his work, his story that moved me was the most, which was about interconnectedness. This little story about, I think it was a piece of paper, and he said, "What do you see?" And, every set a piece of paper. And he says, no, I see the clouds, the rain, the water, the tree from which this paper has come. So we're all interconnected
Yes.
in ways that the mind cannot see. So I totally agree. And he is now available to us in ways that his spirit, his energy, that wouldn't be otherwise probably when he was in a body. So it's time for moving. So Nicolya, for you, I would love for you to share with us anything that you're called to share about this time, especially 2022. And I know you talk about the legacy, a message for hope for 2022 and beyond, the legacy generation. Can you share with us something about that?
I can try. Yeah, I mean, we are living, we know this anyway, we're living in the most extraordinary, tumultuous, but extraordinary times. It's an incredible time to be in a body on this planet. And we at these convergence points. So we know that in 2012, which is what Clarion Call was all about, was that major convergence point of 2021, December 21st, 2021. But then we also are coming out of a grand sweeping astrological age, the age of Pisces. We're coming out of that now. And these great spiritual leaders and teachers, as they leave, it's the evidence really that we're coming away, because my sense is, intuitively, that we won't have spiritual leaders in quotes in the way that we've had them, whoever they've been. It's different. We're moving into a time of interconnectedness, collectiveness, and that's what the age of Aquarius is about. So the age of Pisces was a very, very different age that we're moving away from. We're moving into this age of Aquarius. We've just moved into a new 26,000 year galactic cycle where things become more galactic as we move forward. But of course, we're just in the vapors of that right now. So we've been living in these times in the last 20 years of grand cycles of times and many more. And I can't recite those because they're too many to remember, but they're certainly in Clarion Call. And in fact, I think I have set them all out in Love, God and Everything, because Clarion Call is now out of print. And there really are some classic pieces of information in that book. I thought, let's bring them forward into Love, God and Everything so they don't get lost. So yeah, that's all set out in a specific chapter that's about the times we're living in. But I feel very hopeful, and I feel that 2020 and 2021 were immensely, immensely difficult years for the collective, immensely. And we're still in, those winds, as it were. We're still in them. They're still blowing strong. But I have a feeling that 2022 marks a turning point. In 2023, without getting too astrological, because I'm not a classic astrologer, I'm an intuitive. So I just feel I let the planets speak to me. I don't really read up on them because I don't understand information in that way. It's very different how I assimilate information and understand it. So what I do know is that Pluto moves into Aquarius, touches into Aquarius in 2023. It goes in, it comes out, it goes in, it comes out, and then it goes back in, I think it's April 2024. And it's in for a long ride. And that is going to be, we will see in 2023 a real shift in the balance of the collective. We're still in the crumbling. We're still in the Uranian influence of the breaking down for the breakthrough and the death and rebirth of Pluto. And we're in the death throes of Pluto. Its influence on the planet, on the world, not the planet, on the world, is very much the death throes of the old system, the old Piscean age, the shadow of the old Piscean age. And so it goes on. And so what we're going to find as we move forward, especially with this Pluto touching into Aquarius next year, we're going to start to see with our own eyes evidence of a system that really is crumbling, because it is hanging on by its fingernails, which is why these extreme measures are being put in place. And in a way, as I say, with any astrological age, it, like a human being, like anyone, it has its shadow and it has its light. And so the shadow of the Aquarian age is artificial intelligence and, in quotes, enslavement, close quotes. The light of the Aquarian age is independence, it's freedom, it's humanitarianism, it's the visionaries, the generation of visionaries coming forth and taking us into this age of freedom and liberation in a way that humanity has not experienced probably since the last Aquarian age, which is going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. So it's really, really exciting, the time we're moving in. And of course, Aquarian age is ruled by Uranus. So we have this breaking down. Uranus is all about the breaking down and the breaking apart in order for the breakthrough. So we're kind of sliding down. It feels like we're sliding down this chute of breakdown and death to bring us into the breakthrough and the rebirth. And that's what I feel. I feel we will experience that in our lifetimes. We will see the evidence of that. And that really will start to show itself in 2024. I mean, it's not going to be miraculously transformed because everything takes time. It's an evolving process. But we have, I think the best thing to say is we absolutely have the planets behind us without any question. And they always are. You can never say the planets are not behind us, but they'll be the stern teachers with the fingers pointing, and wagging at us. And then there'll be the knights in shining armor, as it were, lifting humanity up and placing it in a new place. And we're coming into this lifting humanity, the upliftment of humanity, as opposed to where we have been up until now. We've been in this long, sweeping, breaking down process that we have to be mindful, because, as I say, there are, the shadow and the light. And if artificial intelligence really embeds, well, we need to be careful. So this is why consciousness is so important, more important, as we move into this age of Aquarius.
Yeah, absolutely, Nicolya. And this, I know I want to be mindful of your time. We just about have 15 minutes. So if anybody here has any burning questions, go ahead and please put it in the chat, and we'll see if we can get to one or two. Is that okay with you, Nicolya, to do that?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And while anybody does that, if they want to, that leads me exactly what you shared to this Trinity message that you shared in the book, which was so powerful for me, where you heard the voice that said, the love that I am, that I carry within me, is too great for one, and it is for the world. And this lived experience of Christ coming back and Christ consciousness rising within each of our body minds, and you speaking exactly about that we are shifting from the Piscean age into the age of Aquarius, where and the reason I want to name this, that I'm feeling called to name this, is because for me, that's why this space in the school, or what we do, or what we're invited to do, it just felt so right and so powerful, because we are conditioned to look outwards, look sometimes towards a particular teacher, right, or one person. And what we are also being invited to is that, of course, we help each other. Each of us are a puzzle coming together, but also that this consciousness, this wisdom lies in each of us as a gift that we get to live and offer to our world. And those are the times that we are living in. And how I'm happy you say that, because I feel the same energy, even though there's so much of breakdown and it's not going to be easy, perhaps. Each of us have to face our demons and go through this, but they're exciting times. We came in here at this time to be a part of this play.
We absolutely did. And if you think about what's happened with the sea, I try not to say the sea scenario, it's unleashed a massive wave of fear around the planet. I mean, people have gone into such deep fear, and it needed to happen. This again is all part of the death throes of an old age, that humanity has been, I mention this often, and I don't mean to repeat myself, but it's because sometimes things boil down to these simple essences, like that statement that, I don't know if Jimi Hendrix ever came out with it, but certainly he said it, was, the love of power. When the power of love supersedes the love of power, the world will know peace. And we have been living as a humanity for millennia under a love of power paradigm. And we're shifting now into this power of love paradigm. And that is so important. It's so important for people to understand that as we empower ourselves, we shift into this power of love paradigm. The old is going to fall away. It's going to. And so, like the inks, the spots of ink on blotting paper, you just drop them in different places. And when you've got enough, they just seep towards each other and they create this collective whole. And that's what we're moving towards, is a collective seeping together of the individuals into the whole in this new conscious epoch that we're moving into.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And let me see, I see a question here. Okay, Jeff saying, Nicolya, I'll save my questions for later, but just wanted you to know how happy I am to have you here with Supriya today, and your wisdom and your love are so welcome here.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff.
So the big questions, the 4 existential questions, Nicolya, which you answer throughout your book.
Yeah.
Who are we? Why are we really here? Where are we really from? And where do we go when we die?
Mm.
And while we explore all of this here together as a collective, I wanted to ask you this question was, where are we really from? And how important is this question in some way for us to really know? Because, sometimes we really don't know. We know we are cosmic beings, but we really don't know where or what details.
Mm-hmm. Well, my feeling is that when we know, who are we? Fundamentally, who are we? We are love. We are love incarnate. Where are we really from? We are from love. That's who we are. That's where we're from. Where do we go when we die? That's where we go. We return to love. We are love. We never leave love, but we return with a capital R. We return to love, caps, LOVE, caps. And why are we here? We're here to be love. So yes, we do, in a way, we do need to know, GNO, we need to remember who we really are. Because when we remember, we stop, we pause, we respond differently to life when we remember.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole embodiment of stepping into the truth of what we are, and then everything flowing from there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you about that. And I also wanted to share about, thank you for sharing your relationship with your mother as well, Nicolya. That was a beautiful thing to read, when you saw in her eyes just before she passed away, this clear knowing, right? That we're soul.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book that you've really given us a complete picture, and I think it's a book that really one cannot digest in one reading, and we'll have to go back to it again and again. So what I've been doing in the past few days is not even reading the whole thing, just kind of opening whichever page and knowing what's there on that page is what is to be read. So it's really a beautiful book that I'd highly recommend everybody picking it up. And the other thing that I really wanted to also share about was the part where you shared about the hemispheric synchronization.
Mm.
And you talk about in physicality itself, that we have our left, and we've been functioning in the Piscean age from our left brain, the analytical, that likes to do things with power, with force, one may say. And now the right hemisphere is waking up, which when both come together, in flow, we are able to actually live as the beings that we were meant to live here and do what we came here to do.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that's really getting that balance of knowing KNOWING and knowing GNO-ING, getting those beautifully balanced, because everything is about balance. As long as everything's in balance, then we're moving progressively forward in an evolving way. And so that's also really important, that hemispheric synchronization, making sure that, you know, we are in that sort of the balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been doing pranayam for a long time, Nicolya, and that's what I even teach. And it's exactly that, one of the pranayams, and that is balancing the hemispheres. Also, I want to name something that which I think is coming to the forefront, is the fact that throughout the book that you talk about is that even though we are here in our body minds, we are deeply supported at this time by beings that we may not be able to see, guides, ascended masters. You talk about Mahavatar Babaji and many other masters, and not only that, what we might call extraterrestrial beings as well. And so during this transition, we are fully supported, right? Even though no matter what happens around with, in every moment, if we are anchored in, we know we are fully supported with the next step that we each individually, uniquely need to take for this to happen.
Absolutely. You know, humanity is going through a rebirth, and there are many non-physical midwives attending and chanting and assisting physically, you know, actually intervening. And my sense is that, you know, I know that GNO did everything that happens is exactly as it's meant to. You know, we have an opportunity as a humanity to change his story. And as I say, you know, write a new story, this story, our story. We have an opportunity to do that now. But it's a little bit like a bus that comes along. You know, if we miss it, it's not gone forever. It's just we don't know when the next one's coming. And it may not be for another 2,000 years, 1,000 years, 500 years, you know, 10 years, who knows? We can plot it really with the astrology to see, you know, when these great sweeping changes come around again. But we are ripe. This is absolutely the ripest time we have experienced as a humanity for millennia. This is why it's so important. This is why, to understand the grand sweeping cycles of time, which is why I've set them out in the book, is so important, because we imprint that information, we understand it, it informs us in form. So it actually forms us in a different way and informs us. And we carry that forward with us. We need all the tools we can get. We have the extra dimensional support. We also have the imprinting of the information, the codes and so forth that we need in order to keep taking the steps forward at this absolutely momentous time in the history of the world. And I say the word history lightly, as you know, it's a his story. But yeah, you know, it's a momentous, unprecedented time.
Absolutely. And I think we can all really deeply feel that in our bones, you know, and the beautiful invitation that you write in the book, which is, you know, change our story, change our life, change our world. It's truly exciting time. So thank you. And Nicolya, what's coming up for you? So we can, of course, we're going to go to your, everybody's interested can go to nicolyachristi.love. That's your website. And what else? I know there's a novel that's coming, a 3-part novel, if you could share with us.
Trilogy, yes. I mean, anybody that wants to sort of plug in on a more regular level, I'm not so live on the website. I'm very live on my Facebook page, although not so much recently because of the novel. So yes, this novel is it's a story in itself. In a bullet point, when I died in 2002, for the 4 consecutive nights after I had died and I was still hovering between life and death for those 4 nights, I had 4 profound visions, which I absolutely knew were past another timeline, were a past timeline, or say another timeline, because really the whole, cyclical, cyclistic, if you like, reality of life is that there's no past, present, or future, but let's not go there for now, although most people understand it. So I had these profound 4 sequential, chronological recalls, which form the basis of the novel. So the novel is fiction based on fact. It's set between October 1940 and January 1944. It's very much to do with a parallel to what's going on at a very deep level now, but it's focused around the resistance and so forth. And then there's a trilogy. So there's a novel that takes us back, and there's a novel that takes us forward in the here and now, which will come out of it. And that is consuming me 16 hours a day. And I actually did speak to a friend of mine. I said, oh my God, when I put this out, because obviously the next stage is for it to go out to a literary agent, hopefully by the end of April, what are people going to make of this? Because my work is so metaphysical, it's so spiritual. What are people going to make of this? Because this is like really, in the mud, as it were, in sort of wading through the mud, the lotus, as it were, to be born. And a friend of mine said, you're here to bring a body of work. And that body of work is whatever comes out of you. And I thought, it's true. So stop, because I did think to myself, goodness, this is something else. This is very different. And yet it carries a powerful message for humanity all the way through it, the theme. But it's very, very mainstream, because my intention really with the story is for it to go into the mainstream deeply. So I have quite a big vision for where I hope it's going to go. So yeah, that's it for now anyway on the novel.
Beautiful, Nicolya. You talk about this time being so ripe, and for us each to follow our inner compass and step in and do what we are here to do. And you are walking that talk and sharing it with us. So deeply, deeply grateful. What comes across truly is this, the deep trust that you hold. And it's so beautifully the last part that you shared that I want to say again is that we really don't know sometimes what the result or the outcome of our action is. But when we are deeply called to it, our duty, our love is just to step into that and do it the best we know how. And I think that's all that is really required at any point from any of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay open, just stay open to the intuitive prompt. So important. So many people override it, and they'll say, oh, actually something was telling me to do X, Y, and Z, but rationally I thought, it's better go with the intuitive prompt, go with the inner voice, go with that felt sense, because that's where the wisdom, that's where the truth, that's where the pure guidance is. It's in the felt sense, it's in the body, it's how the body responds. If the body contracts, restricts, even if the head's saying something else and the body's going in an opposite direction, don't step forward. If the body relaxes and the intuition is saying, oh, that sounds amazing, but the head's saying, God, no, but the body is relaxing and is smiling, step forward. I mean, really, that's another thing outside of just to summarize here, outside of the simplicity of the love, just being the love, the Thich Nhat Hanh quote that I read earlier. The other piece in all of this is tune into the body. Is the body smiling, or is the body grimacing? Is the body relaxed, or is the body contracting? Therein lies the answer to the next step to take.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that, Nicolya. And I think those are some of the classes as well that we bring in. We have one of our teachers here, Susan Coleman, who teaches exactly that, the somatic aspect of, you know, listening to our body's wisdom and allowing our awakening to happen through that. Just so beautiful. It's truly a sacred and divine tool. So thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
have a few more questions here. Okay, no questions per se. But everybody's in deep appreciation. I will, let me see, hopefully can take a copy of the chat and send it to you, Nicolya, so you can read it at your own time, because I know time is up for the hour. And deep appreciation. Thank you so much for making time. I know there's much happening with the book release for you, and still making time to be with us here. We're going to be recording this and having it in school for anybody who would like to, listen to it. And I think, Jeff, did you want to say something? I thought Jeff came on and raised his hand for a minute. Maybe not. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much, Nicolya, for your time and your message and your book and your essence. I hope when your next book comes out, we'd love to have you back again here to talk with us.
Thank you so much, Supriya. It's been really beautiful speaking with you. You've got such a lovely energy, and the way you share, the way you speak, the respect, the love. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a joy to be interviewed with you and to speak with you. So thank you so much. And to whoever has tuned in, and lots of love to you, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. Thank you for holding space here, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. Much love.
You too. Thank you. Bye, Supriya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.